Hi, I'm Issa. For sake of interview purposes, would you say your name?
Namaka.
Okay, so today we are going to be filming a little interview, more of a dialogue for Sea Potential for their water kind of Seaside Stories, and it's going to be just relating to your stories about water and how you grew up around it and how you interact with it. Do you mind if we get started?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a lot of different places, but I was originally born in Hawaii. I'm from Hawaii. I'm native there.
Which island?
Big Island.
Oh.
I know.
How old were you when you moved to the mainland?
3 years old, and I moved to where did I move? Oh, Las Vegas.
Oh.
Yep. And then I lived in California for a while, in Kansas City, Missouri, and then eventually settled here in Seattle.
Okay, so you've been by the coast for quite a bit of it. So what was the first interaction with water that you remember?
I think my first memory is playing in like disgusting, like smelly sprinkler water in Las Vegas. It's really hot there, as you can guess, and my grandma lived there in a small retirement home.
Oh.
So that was my first interaction with water I can remember, is playing in the sprinklers, wearing my my orange sundress. I was the cutest child, by the way, just letting you know. I was adorable. That was my first interaction with, like, I guess, artificial water, but I have a lot of memories with the coast. I think, unsurprisingly, a lot of pollution is surrounding that. I grew up in Southern California for a long time, and Huntington Beach was a beach that I went to a lot as a kid. And I remember my first memories of swimming in the ocean was in California in Huntington Beach. And then, like, I remember the progression of it starting to smell like pollution, and I remember the sewage, but I think every memory I have with water in those early days were joyful, even though it was surrounded by, like, the stench of pollution in the sprinkler or at the ocean. So.
Okay, so I hear that you're talking a lot about your relationship with water and how it makes you feel joyful. So what do you think about your relationship with water? Like, who's influenced it? What? Who? Where?
Definitely from where I'm from, because I'm from Hawaii. I'm native there, so my connection to water is really strong. Like, my cultural ties to it. Every time I visit, I remember a really fond memory I have is when I visited home in Hawaii, the Big Island, in 2013, I think. So I was 12 or 11 or 12, and I hadn't been back in a really long time, and that was where I had built more memories of water, you know, in my homeland. And I remember swimming like 30 feet under, touching the sand and bringing as much, like, white sand as I could back up. And so when I think, you know, you asked me what my first memory was, but I think that was the most impactful. That's the memory that comes up first, is swimming in, like, crystal clear ocean water that, you know, my ancestors swam in before me. So, yeah.
So going back onto your ancestry and, like, how you connect with water and grabbing the white sand and bringing it up, what do you do to connect with water?
Drink it. I don't know. I think it's really hard for me to find super strong connections in Seattle with water, especially because a lot of my ties here is, like, school and work related. But when I'm intentional about my connection to water, it's with friends and family, going to, like, Lake Washington or traveling down the coast to Oregon. I think when I'm connecting to water, every part of it is intentional, which is the opposite of my connection to water in other places, like in Hawaii or down in California, where it came more natural to me. And I think part of that is because I'm not originally from Seattle. But I also think that's where a lot of valuable things are born from it, because of the different parts of Seattle that I'm able to visit because of it with friends and family, like Lake Washington, like Mount Baker Park. Those places bring a lot of good memories for me.
Okay, so I noticed you said that you don't feel connected to, like, a lot of places in the Puget Sound. Do you feel connected to any at all? Or just, like, any locations like Alki Beach or Pike Place Market?
I think for me, a lot of those connections come from, like, are tied to memories for me. When I'm with friends and family, when I'm finding times of enjoyment, they're not necessarily the places I seek out. I had my prom at Alki, so big memory for me there. And, like, there's so many pictures of me at the water. And I think definitely, like, Lake Washington, Martha Washington Park down, I think think in like the Rainier Beach area. You look confused. You're not from here, I see. That's definitely a place where it's a place where you can swim. And there's not a lot of places to find where you can swim in Seattle, like as safely. I've always like associated like the lake water with like molasses, just because it's not as smooth as water in Hawaii or in California. But I find so much peace in those small like coveted areas like Martha, Washington, where they're really closed off from other parts of the lake. So
it's very interesting. I'm actually not from here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So now I'm exposing you to some culture. That's good.
Yeah, my family's from Issa.
Oh.
Yeah. And then they moved up here.
Well, that's good to know.
How would you say that water has affected your life up until this point?
I think in every aspect. I think, water for me comes with a certain amount of grief because, every memory I have with water does come with an association of pollution or of movement, because I moved so many different places. Like Huntington Beach, I haven't been there since in 10 years. I haven't been back in home in Hawaii for a year. I visited last year, but a lot of association with water comes, with that feeling of sorrow of I can't be there. So I think, there are certain areas in Seattle where I think it does fill that gap for me that I can't be with water, but, I guess this could be a replacement. I think that's, my major association with water. And definitely an association of love and joy, because that's where I built so many memories. Like I taught my little sister how to swim here. In the lake didn't go well, but she knows how to swim now. And definitely Rainier Beach Community Center, the pool. I teach a middle school and I teach special ed, and so I got to teach my kids how to swim there. Not just swim, we're flailing, but I'm also not great in pools. But that chlorine smells delicious with a bunch of children, but it was so fun. I think those intentional spots, like I was speaking of earlier, are really where I feel myself feeling so much appreciation for, I'm missing out on the water that I grew up with, but at least I have this to replace it.
Okay. I noticed you said that you kind of feel very kind of far away from water, like even living by the coast. How was it living in Missouri?
Yes, I did live in Kansas City, Missouri. That was wretched, actually. The weather, horrible. I'm not a spokesperson for the Midwest at all.
As you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I don't know if many people are. But it was really hard. I think 8. So it was first, second, and part of third grade for me. And it was really hard, especially for my mom. She's Native Hawaiian, and moving from California, where we're very close to the coast, all the way to the Midwest in the the dead of winter, where we were getting 6 inches of snow. We definitely found pockets of joy, but it was really difficult because there was no lakes near us. It was also a very very white affluent area, but there were not many public pools. Also June bugs and ticks. So when we did go to a public pool, it was gnarly. It was a little despicable, but we made do, and when we moved, I think that made my appreciation for water all that more fulfilling, to be able to move from Missouri back to California, and then eventually come to Seattle, or at least we got to stay on the coast. So
at least you got to stay on the coast.
Yep.
So you have mentioned that you are Native Hawaiian. Do you have any culture practices that you do practice, whether there, whether here, or any that have been passed down to you?
Involving water.
Yeah.
I think one is doing, when we go to the coast, any new beach we visit, we definitely do, we went to La Push. How did I forget about La Push? I love that spot. Actually, wow, speaking back to your earlier question, La Push, I visited a couple years ago with my mom and my brother, and then my 2 siblings, my sister and my older sibling, and that's definitely a spot. I can't believe I forgot. But we, rented a cabin, and that was the closest I felt back to home, because it was an actual ocean. We couldn't go swimming, but it was salt water, and I know it's really strange, but I really missed the sting of salt in my eyes. And I was able to go there, and we do an oli, which is a chant, in Olelo Hawaii, our native language, and That's what we do at the water, is we chant and we bring pikai, which is, like traditional Hawaiian salt. I don't know if I said that right. So if any Hawaiians are watching this, sorry for the mess up. But yeah, we do an oli, walk along the beach. And we also make sure not to, take anything without asking for permission, like rocks, shells, things like that, which are, everyday practices that we include in our daily life. But yeah, we usually do an oli, which is, the main one is called ehumai, which is a chant asking for permission for us to be at the land and thanking the land for providing, the land and the water for providing a home for us and the creatures, and every living thing and non-living thing here. So
it's very beautiful.
It is. I know. My culture is kind of amazing.
Do you think you would leave anybody with anything just like relating to water? Because you have said that a lot of places, like the grief with pollution, do you think you would leave them any like tips or like anything like you would say, just like any words just to help anybody in their relationship to water?
I don't know. That's a really tough question because I don't personally feel responsible for the pollution. Obviously, it's corporations, capitalism, but I think, the practice of ehumai and chanting when we're at the water signifies our respect for the land, and I think that when we all carry that for the land and the water, the land feels it. The water knows that it's there, and that's part of the reason we do our oli. Is so the land can feel replenished. And I think that's, in our own practices, in our own ways, regardless if you're Hawaiian or anything else, if you can find a way to include that in your daily life when you visit the water, that's how we can replenish the water. Even if the pollution is still there, I think the earth still can feel it. So
that's very beautiful. I would love to learn more about your culture practices at another time, but thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Issa.